He joins us every Friday. He focuses on the world of music, on the world of movies, anything you can stream, anything you can enjoy. He writes for the Marina Times. You can find him on social media. He's called the Culture Blaster. And it comes to us on a wave of sunshine and rainbow. Oh, Michael Snyder, everybody. Come on.
Always know it's Friday when Michael comes on.
Woo! Yeah. And it's a holiday weekend. I wish everyone a safe and sane Labor Day weekend. I don't want to belabor this, by the way. My heart goes out to all the people who are dealing with Hurricane Ida. I have friends in New Orleans, friends on the Florida Panhandle, believe it or not. And they're left of center, I promise you. My sister is in New Jersey. I have dear people in my life in New York. And the weird thing about Hurricane Ida is my grandmother on my father's side was named Ida. I promise you, she did get angry, but she never exceeded a Category 2.
Good line.
Very well speaking of explosions and forces of nature, oh, my God, an immovable object and an irresistible force come to blows at Oracle Park this weekend, Pac Bell Park.
Oh, yeah, huge Giants fans, as Michael Snyder, huge Giants fans.
I am ready and revved up. I'm going to be wearing my orange and black for the orange and black attack, and I'm hoping that when the weekend ends, the better team, the Giants, are on top of the NL West. They're tied right now.
Dodgers are tough, man. I'm really worried, but I absolutely have the same hope that you do, that the Giants prevail. Yeah.
Well, speaking of San Francisco, our lead movie, and maybe the biggest movie in weeks, is opening today in theaters, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And this movie is a blast. It's a kind of a magical mashup from beginning to end. It's like a high-octane, high-stakes hero's journey with like stunning martial arts action, laugh-out-loud comedy, and family drama. And it stretches, the scope is from China and Macau to San Francisco. And I just was delighted by it. And it officially kicks off the latest phase of Marvel Studios' interwoven superhero blockbusters and TV shows. And it has connections to the previous films and the ones that are on the way.
So they're finally doing something with the Marvel franchise, is what you're saying?
That's it. But the odd thing is, this is a standalone, like Black Panther, which was massively popular, and this is the first Marvel movie to top line an Asian lead, an Asian superhero, a guy who was created during the Kung Fu movie boom back in the early 70s, Shang-Chi, master of Kung Fu. And they've updated this beautifully. I found it incredibly entertaining. And it's sort of, it spans the generations. You got your good versus evil face-off, and there's all these great over-the-top fight scenes, and it's pretty funny. And Shang-Chi is played by no less than Simu Liu, who got his big break as the slacker son, Jung, on the popular sitcom Kim's Convenience. And I was shocked to hear that they had cast this guy. I thought, light comedy. He's kind of a hunk, but light comedy. And he's really wonderful here because Shang-Chi, raised by a Chinese warlord who runs the Ten Rings gang in China and being groomed to be his successor, being taught Kung Fu, says, I don't want to be a part of this. And when he's old enough, he escapes to America, comes to San Francisco, where he works as a valet at a fancy hotel. Wow. And he calls himself Sean. There's no Shang there. And his best friend, Katie, is played by Awkwafina. And, if you know her from Crazy Rich Asians or Nora from Queens, she can be pretty hilarious.
She's awesome. A scene stealer for sure, yeah.
Well, their rapport is wonderful, and then something happens. Somebody's after Sean, who reveals finally, hey, I'm Shang-Chi, and the explosion of fights and hilarity and weirdness. There is a scene early in this movie where they're confronted on the One California, and it turns into one of the best car chases I've ever seen, and a close quarters martial arts fight on the bus as it's careening through the city.
Wow, that's cool. So really a lot of San Francisco in this movie, or some San Francisco, huh?
Oh, yeah, and then, of course, he goes back he ends up in Macau. The two of them go off because there's trouble afoot, and Dad, by the way, is played by Tony Leung, who is a superstar in Asia, massively popular. He was the star of the wonderful Wong Kar-wai romance In the Mood for
Oh,
Love.
wow. I love those movies, the Wong Kar-wai stuff.
He's a fantastic actor, and he gives this real gravitas. And the problem is that, he wants to rule the world. He wants to bring back his dead wife. I mean,
he's gone over to the dark side, hasn't he?
Well, he's been on the dark side, and he wants to lure Shang-Chi.
Oh, he wants to lure Shang-Chi. So we got to move on, but you like Shang-Chi a lot, it sounds like.
Very, very much. Right. And, Michelle Yeoh is in this thing. And, again, there are Marvel connections to in little bits and pieces. All I will say in that regard is Benedict Wong, who people will know from the Doctor Strange film, and Ben Kingsley, who has also got a little bit of history as a Marvel character. They're on board. And one more note, Hasbro's G.I. Joe film tried to kind of do an update of martial arts stuff, and it was Snake Eyes. And this thing, Shang-Chi, is so much better in all ways: narrative, actors, special effects, cinematography. It's in theaters. I really enjoyed the hell out of it.
Wow, great. Moving on.
Okay. Imagine that the Disney Channel and the Hallmark Channel had a whiny, colicky baby. And that's the new Cinderella movie. I mean, another live-action movie version of the Cinderella story. Do we need this? We just had one a couple years ago, a live-action thing with Lily James from Downton Abbey as Ella. And now she's moved on to be Pamela Anderson in the Pamela and Tommy sex tape miniseries. Quite a distance from Cinderella. But
more on that another time.
Yeah,
okay.
Really, seriously. But in this new pop, hip-hop version of the old story, the fairy tale kingdom is filled with a multicultural, all-gender representation. People burst into song and dance, and the songs are mostly all too familiar pop hits in the manner of, like, Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, where they kind of made it's kind of like a jukebox musical. And I just wasn't buying it. I'm not a big fan of the TV show Glee, which always strained for laughs and relevance and always recycled a lot of pop hits. And in this case, Cinderella stars an X Factor girl group grad named Camila Cabello.
Oh, yeah, she's great. What are you talking? You don't like Camila Cabello?
Well, she's sassy and she's spunky and all that stuff, and she gives it.
She's a huge star. Her music is wildly successful.
Let me tell you something. Have you heard the phrase over-singing? It's something that Mariah Carey and Celine Dion do. It's like they bit her and infected her with over-singing in this thing.
Oh, my God.
I think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
All right, maybe that's it.
They pull
Your
out
son's desperation, Michael?
Rhythm Nation, Material Girl, all these songs that are familiar. This is like, even Cardi B would think this is a little over the top. That's all I'm saying.
You're mentioning all these songs that I like. I think I'm going to love this.
Well, I don't know.
It's about as bad as it can possibly get.
It's pretty bad. Idina Menzel is slumming here.
She's great, Idina Menzel. You didn't like this movie?
You know what? She was getting a paycheck. It looks like she phoned it and she sang it in. I don't know what she did with it, but this was James Corden's baby, by the way, and he shows up as one of Cinderella's mice-turned-footmen. Oh, my God. You know what? The one good thing that I liked Billy Porter. He plays Ella's fabulous godmother, and he does a good version of Earth, Wind, and Fire's Shining Star.
Okay, so you don't like Cinderella.
No,
Let's move on. I've only got a minute or two left for you,
I was so disappointed.
All right.
All right, let's give you something good. In the wake of 9/11, there was the possibility of victims' families and injured first responders filing multi-billions in lawsuits against the airlines and the government and who knows who else. And that was red flagged back then as a threat to the economy. So the Department of Justice and Congress established a victims' compensation fund, and they brought in a guy named Kenneth Feinberg, who with his legal firm was on a deadline to figure out the specific money value for each victim's life and get a percentage to accept the payout.
Yeah, he had a tough job. It was a big job,
It was a big deal. So this movie, Worth, which is on Netflix, by the way, although it's not a high watermark in activist filmmaking, it's a more than worthwhile look at the legal machinations that were involved in the effort to achieve a fair settlement in a wildly unfair nightmare of a situation. And it gives the tragedy a human face in the form of Feinberg, his partners and employees at the firm, and the survivors and families. And amid all of the hope for restitution, these hotshot corporate lawyers are out there licking their chops trying to squeeze as much as they can out of the situation for their clients with little regard for the ordinary people whose lives were screwed up by 9/11. And Michael Keaton is terrific here as the accomplished and somewhat unlikable Feinberg. Amy Ryan, composed and compassionate as his firm's head of operations. Stanley Tucci, great as a community organizer. whose wife died at the World Trade Center and who wants to see Feinberg and company reduce their sense of the worth of the individual in dollars and cents and again, be more compassionate. I thought that this would be a little more emotional, but Worth is a reasonably fascinating look at how bureaucracy dealt with the aftermath of this previously unthinkable horror, directed by Sarah Colangelo. Also, again, available on Netflix.
Wow, that's I definitely will check that out. I mean, I remember reading a lot about him. Being the guy who had to take on this thankless job. No one's going to be happy.
No.
It's like the COVID restrictions. If you make them too intense, people are angry for the restrictions. If you make it too loose, then people are angry at you because of the COVID spread. In this case, you have incredible loss, incalculable loss, and somehow there has to be calculation. It's called Worth. Okay, it's on Netflix. Cinderella, he hated, even though it's got everything I love for the little girl inside me.
It's on that.
It's got everything I love,
it's
Michael
on
Snyder.
Amazon. It's
How
on Amazon.
How dare you?
Oh, it was too cute by half.
How dare you? And then finally, Shang-Chi.
And the Legend of the Ten Rings.
And the Legend of the Ten Rings, you loved it, and a bunch of it shot in the city, so that's really, really cool. You can read him in the Marina Times. You can hear him here, and you can follow him on social media as the Culture Blaster. Michael Snyder, we thank you for joining us, and you come and go with the magic of... I'm stalling for the... You got it now? Okay. For the harp? Do you have it? Or the harp? Oh, man. Bye, Michael!
See you, Michael.
That was like waiting for the one California. Come on.
It was a bit of an awkward
Nice
departure.
line.
I'll give you that. Mark Thompson Show, KGO 810.